I can't be responsible for other people's the the experience that they have in watching the film, but I
Right.
think that, yeah, at the end of the day, it's a truthful film, and I'm proud of being able to create community and to break silence that existed inside of me.
Good day, filmmaker Lauren Melinda of Before You and Simbel Productions. Lauren, how are you today?
Good, good. How are you doing?
I am well. I am thrilled that you're here to talk about Before You and your production company and all the great things that have been happening for you, the awards. But
Thank
I'm curious, I couldn't find it in any. I read a couple interviews, and this is my favorite question. How did you get started? What drew you to making films?
Oh, interesting. Yep. Thank you for having me, first of all. I appreciate it and for your interest in the film and in me. So I actually come from photography. So I started in pretty much in high school in like ninth grade. I started taking photography classes and the kind of classic story of having a professor, a teacher who truly believed in me and believed in my passion for the arts. And for 3 years, Mr. Myers, it's funny
Nice.
for their
Is
names,
he still following your career? Do you still communicate with him?
he went and got his MFA my senior
Okay.
year of high school, and then we just
Yeah.
lost touch. But it's funny, he was the girls' soccer coach too, and my best
Oh,
friend in
interesting.
the world still from seventh grade played soccer in college. And she and I, even though like I was photography and she was soccer, we have both kind of connected around the impact that he had on us. So he was just a special teacher. But so I just love photography. I went to UCLA undergrad in studio art to follow that passion. And I was always in the dark room and started out shooting black and white and then moved into color because I had a color processor at UCLA. And then a couple years later, I went to UC Irvine for graduate school. And that's when things started to shift from analog to digital, and I just had a really difficult time with that transition. My whole experience of photography was very much being on my feet. Everything was tactile. It was even in the darkroom, I've said before, it was still collaborative. Like even though I was in the room by myself, like when I'd walk out or look at the color or anything, composition, contrast, everybody who was working in the darkroom, we would all work together and support each other. And then it changed. When everything went digital, we were on a computer and it was very solitary, and I was like, "Oh, just all these buttons, like, I just don't get it, I don't like it." It just felt like a completely different experience. So I moved from that to experimental more, I guess, I would say I'd probably moved into video installation when I was in graduate school and had an amazing professor there, Bruce Yanomoto, who I am still close with, who really saw my interest in film and was like, Watch this film. Look at this artist. Look at this." And even to the point where I ended up teaching an undergrad
Oh,
class.
wow.
So it was really wonderful. Again, another professor who gave me the pathway to find my voice within that, that art form. And then yeah, I started doing more experimental film. And then now I think Before You is probably my most narrative of the films that I've done, but that's a long answer to your question, but
Yeah.
that's how I got started.
What is a video installation, Lauren? Is it just like a short film of some kind, basically?
Film, so, like, the piece that an example would be I shot a 15-minute film using all security cameras in a home. So 16
Oh. Oh,
cameras,
I see.
and then I had 4 monitors that were all quadrants so that all 16 cameras can show at once. So it's
Yeah.
just you're usually not in a theater, you're usually, like, in a gallery space. So it can be really anything, but for me, that was the process towards more experimental film that was then shown in a theater.
Before You, I think, is your 3rd short film. You're working on a feature called Echoes, and you executive produced a film that was at South by Southwest, Satisfaction. So through all this, can you precisely describe your vision as a filmmaker? Do you think, like, it's become more precise in terms of, like, how you view what you wanna do? And then when you're, like, executive producing, does it, like, in all your experience now influence your vision of how to, like, explain that to another filmmaker of, "This is how you do it"?
Yeah, I think I've always been interested in the female experience. That's in the way that society and culture and even our environment impacts us and impacts our identity. So I think that's something that I've always been very interested in my own work. When I started Simbel, and we actually have so I'm now an executive producer on 4 films.
That's
And
awesome.
so, yeah, one, Familiar Touch, which premiered at Venice, and then we had Satisfaction at South by Southwest, and then we just had Blue Heron premiere at Locarno and at TIFF in San Sebastian. So that's yeah, and then we have another one that we're going into. It's just in pre-production now. But I think with that, it started Simbel is a nonprofit production company. And so, in order for it to be a nonprofit, we had to have a very specific mission. And that
Right.
mission was female narratives with some sort of social impact. So, you can call them narrative impact narratives, but it was very important to me that they were narrative films and not documentaries. I think that's
Okay.
very much aligned with the kind of filmmaker that I am as well. I'm very interested in how narrative film can have a strong impact. It's we always call it the vegetables in the chocolate cake. You
Yeah.
don't taste it, you don't know it's there, but it's happening. Like it's you're still
Yeah, right.
you're getting the good stuff and then also supporting female voices and female narratives. Belle's named after my daughters.
Oh,
So
cool.
Lily Bell with the idea that they're 8 and 4, so they're still little, but even then I see how film impacts them and how they project themselves onto the characters in films, how they start to see the way society is built through the lens of a film. Do you know what I mean? So it's like they're
Yeah,
learning so much about the world and about themselves through these films. So I feel that the more we can put out films about women and from all throughout the spectrum that they will then be able to see themselves on screen and not feel as alone. And I think a lot of it is, as I did with Before You, is about just approaching subjects that may be more difficult to talk about, but
yeah.
that still so many of us are impacted by, and creating community and conversation so that people do feel less alone or silenced in their experience.
Absolutely. So a previous guest I had on, Kim Steele, she created a new company called Documentaries Don't Work, and her philosophy, she's in the climate space, but her
Okay.
philosophy is like, we everybody knows what their favorite narrative film is, but nobody can name a climate documentary. Is
Yeah.
that sort of your philosophy of you're able, and we can talk about Before You as well, where you utilize some fantastical moments that wouldn't really fit into a documentary. Is
Yeah.
that sort of when you say you don't wanna, not that you are against documentaries, of course, but that you're focusing on narrative? Is that sort of why you're doing it? Is it because you can be a little bit more adventurous in terms of your storytelling, get the point across a
Yeah.
little better?
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually funny, I was at a climate event in New York just on Sunday, and I was
Right.
speaking to somebody because I think a lot of times when I say I work in social impact and film, people
Yeah,
automatically
exactly.
assume it's documentary. So that I'm like, "No, it's not, it's narrative." And he's, "Wow." He's, "Oh, that makes a lot of sense though, because then I could project myself into onto the characters, and then, like, I'm in control of how to digest the narrative." And I'm like, "Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly." Whereas I think we in a lot of ways, when someone sits down to watch a documentary, there is inherently this idea that, okay, I'm gonna be taught something, right? Like I'm something is and it can be very one-sided. It's not as maybe always as subjective as one would want it to be. And I think that when it comes to fiction, it allows just for again, one more creative to take more creative chances. Like you said, like Before You would never have been able to really operate as a
Exactly.
documentary the way and I think because I come from photography, I don't use as much dialogue. Everything is my interest is in how working with the actors can I create these situations where they are able to express the emotion simply from a look, from an interaction, from the way that they interact with the space around them. And yeah, and I think that documentary definitely has its strengths, but
Yeah.
I think to be
Well,
able to approach it from this perspective, it just hopefully will reach more homes, more theaters, and have a larger reach. Yeah.
that's awesome. There's so many interesting things you said, Lauren. So one other that caught my ear was all the film festivals you've been to. Are you bullish on our film festival system? Like after going to all these festivals, premiering films, hopefully finding distribution for them and meeting people, are you generally bullish on the system? Are you bearish? Maybe we need to make changes. How are your feelings on the film festival system for films right now?
I think something that we talk a lot about is more distribution and
Yeah.
how we need to really shift the distribution model. Film festivals can be wonderful. I
Yeah.
think there's such a my gosh, everything from to a can from a small one weekend festival
Right.
in Dallas to a full week in Cannes. So I think for Before You, something that's I actually just wrote an op-ed about this that I'm hoping to put out there is the festivals that Before You have been so surprising to me because they've played mostly in red states, in states where
Right.
there's a very restrictive ban on abortion,
Right.
and for me, like, being able to play festivals in those states and have a voice there and to be able to reach out to the communities in those towns and in that just the communities in general has been amazing to be and surprising too, because I was like, "Oh, it's probably gonna play in New York, LA," like all the places that are
Right.
where people
You
can
would
talk
expect.
about it and not yeah, you'd expect I'm like, "Oh my no, we've been to Oklahoma, Alabama, Idaho,
Awesome.
Missouri." So it's these are places where I think there's a real craving for the communities to be able to talk about it and to express their stories as well. So I think in terms of short films and finding kind of the right festivals for you, I think the perspective of, "Oh, I need to play all of the biggest festivals."
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
career, but there's so many other things that I think are more important that especially in what I'm doing where it's like the social impact is really what's driving the film, is finding the right kind of festival for your film. And then I think, yeah, it's been interesting to have the conversation around festivals for feature films and then distribution, just the conversation about like how is it working today? Everything is constantly in flux. So it's changing
Right.
so rapidly. We're especially when we're looking at co-productions of our latest film is a co-production between Canada and Hungary, and then so how does that work? Where does it live in terms of North America? There's so much. And then do you play festivals or do you pull it until the release? So just I just got off a call where there's so much strategy involved and you really it's day by day because you don't know who's going to be interested in your film. You don't really
Yeah.
know what festival is going to give it the best platform. If we're not talking about the Cannes, Venice, and Berlin's of the world, it's like what will help you as a filmmaker? It's a hard question to answer.
Yeah.
By
And
answer.
I yeah, no, I imagine you love talking more about your art, which Before You is just incredible. So when somebody sits down to watch Before You, are you hoping they know something about it? They know so the log line is what talks about pregnancy loss. Do you hope they know something about it, like the film, or do you want them to come in just blind, not knowing, well, Before You is a film, not knowing much about it at all?
Yeah, I think sure, ideally, I think it's always nice to have people come in and have a very clean experience without any preconceived ideas of what a film can be about. I
Right.
think I wish we had that much control. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
like a little menu and like a little list of like, the
yeah.
film.
All we know is but, I think it's always ideal, but at the end of the day, if I just hope that if knowing that it's abortion, people don't have preconceived ideas about the film because I don't think that fits into the classical abortion narrative, let's say. And that was why really I wanted to make the film in the first place because I never saw my own story reflected in a film about loss and women's health and abortion. And so I think that sometimes it can be tricky if people know what the film is about ahead of time. But I'm hoping that in the experience of watching it, they'll see that that really no story of abortion is the same. They're all everyone is it's incredibly unique to everyone who experiences it. And
Do you think it's from your background that you had talked about that you're able to do so many things creatively with the film? The transitions are something I've never seen before. It's fantastical, and you wouldn't necessarily think about that in a film like this, but it makes sense, right? Because how do you depict emotions on a screen? You don't want to be verbalizing it like saying, "Oh, I'm really sad." That's a waste of the medium. So why don't we see more like why is this so original? Does it surprise you that more filmmakers aren't willing to take that leap that you do in this film?
oh, I first of all, I appreciate thank you for the compliment. Yeah, I think having never gone through film school, I think
Right.
never was I wasn't trained to think about film in a certain way. I remember after I made my first short, the DP I worked with was like, "Oh, you should take a class and just a couple and then do another a feature." And so I was in New York and I took a class and the guy was like, "Don't try and be creative. It's like
God.
shot, reverse shot." And I was like, "Huh?" It just was so far from the kind of work that I wanted to make. But I think there is something about the way that filmmaking is taught that I never
Yeah,
had to prescribe to because I was never taught that way. And I think that there's the combination of like my background as a visual artist and then also
right.
just I think my just me being me. I'm just a truth teller. Since I was little, people were like, "Why do you have to say things that people don't say?" And I'm like, even my recently, my husband, you always sometimes you say things that like you shouldn't be saying. And I'm like,
Yeah,
who says I shouldn't be saying it? Who says we shouldn't be talking about the experience of our abortion? Like
yeah,
we went through it and we had friends who we found out later had gone through the same thing as us and we had known them for years and we had never talked about it. And I think that again, like the medium of film can be so impactful and heart opening, if that's not too
right.
cheesy, that
Completely.
yeah, that I think and also to not to really lean into the fact that it is a visual medium. It is
Exactly.
so like to be able to push the medium as far as we can go. And I think it sounds like from what you've read, you understand that everything is practical. We didn't use any VFX. We didn't it was about like how do we as filmmakers truly utilize what we have in front of us. Yeah.
So you also, like you mentioned, you took it to red states, and like I think on the first scene of the film, it says in solidarity with Planned Parenthood. Which is also pushing boundaries, right? So you see current independent filmmakers maybe taking a step back, saying we don't want to create waves, we don't want to, and that will, I assume, it has created waves. Like people immediately react to that, whether positively, negatively, whatever. What was that decision like to do that? And then what has the reaction been like in those red states and people who may not see Planned Parenthood in a favorable way? Like, how have they viewed the film after seeing that particular scene?
Yeah. Luckily, again, knock on wood, we haven't had any negative reactions to it.
That's all.
I think the truth is that mm, the conversation around abortion is incredibly complicated, and I think that a lot of what is happening politically is not necessarily reflective of what the people want or believe. So I think that a lot of people who have come to see the film are in are engaged and I I mean, from the experiences that I've had after the screenings is that they're very grateful that the story has been told, and a lot men and women are saying, "Thank you for sharing your story. Your story is our story, or your story is my
Yeah,
story." And so, I think for me, aligning ourselves with Planned Parenthood, it's also about making sure that the conversation and I think because I think this film is not political, it is not
right.
talking about needing to cross state lines,
Right, exactly.
it's just talking about the emotional experience for this couple,
Yeah,
and I think that I've spoken Karen Spruik is the person who really runs all of the entertainment media through Planned Parenthood, and we've had quite a few in conversations that really surrounded the importance of sharing diverse stories around abortion and how we build the humanity into these stories and don't make them political. Because at the end of the
Right.
day, abortion and women's rights and women's health should not be a political issue. So I think my goal in all of this, because I also wrote the film prior to the Dobbs decision. So this was not like a knee-jerk reaction
Reaction.
to what was happening. It was like, this is something that I started to feel the need to write after I had my second child, and I started to have these memories erupt within me about the pregnancy that never came to be, and 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 so it was yeah, it was just it was im it came from a very honest and true place of just wanting to share my personal journey with this experience, and I think that once Dobbs happened, it was like, "Okay, now I just need to make sure to get it out there." But the initial drive to write the film itself was not because of anything political. So, inherently, it's gonna be political because it's abortion, we're in the US, we're in the situation that we're in. Minefield, it's been very like, early on, I was talking about, like, how we changed our log line, like, 12 times because it was like, what are there certain words that are triggers for
Yeah,
the right or a trigger for the le you had to be so
exactly.
careful, and so I just kept coming back to, no, this is a human story. This is not about politics. How do I take politics out of it and really we want to build compassion, understanding, empathy. It is not about like how you vote.
Yeah,
So
right.
hopefully at the end of the day we're doing that. And I am proud to be collaborating with Planned Parenthood also so that there is an understanding that they also are not political. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? They have to be in order to keep the funding that they need to operate, but inherently that is not who they are or what they
yeah.
represent.
It's still so brave. Just think about associating with that and then going into that landmine-filled field, even if it isn't political, people will judge it like that. How do you feel when you are talking with our other artists, other directors, do you feel their hesitancy to get involved in things like that? Like, we don't necessarily see a lot of artists pushing on things like race or brutality. It's certain police brutality. It's certainly out there. Films are, but like the festivals aren't going to give you that because they have corporate sponsors, and it goes. You go all down the line. We could talk about this, but like, why do you see? Why don't we see more of this bravery to just be like, no, this isn't political. It's judged on the merits of the art. Like, I made it something that's personal to me. Like, why don't we see more artists willing to is it just the funding? It just comes down to they're not gonna be able to keep a roof over their head if they're that brave?
I think that might be part of it. I think that it's also just scary to talk about things where you feel like you might be attacked.
Right, yeah,
But
no,
yeah, we're playing in Dallas in mid-October when I thought, I should reach out to some of my friends there just to get the temperature. Do
right.
I invite and again, the people who I think are coming to the festival on their own hopefully are open and expecting the programming to push the boundaries a little bit, but I'm curious as to my niece went to SMU. Would her friends who still are from Texas or living in Texas, would they be open to seeing a film like this? What would, and again, I can't be responsible for other people's, the, the experience that they have in watching the film. But I think that, yeah, at the end of the day, it's a truthful film. And I'm proud of being able to create community and to break silence that existed inside of me, and I'm hoping
Yeah,
and I've experienced firsthand at some of these festivals, other people coming up and saying, I there's one woman in Cleveland who said, "How did you make this film?" Like, there were 4 years of just my life being absolutely miserable on the way to motherhood, and I've never told anybody. When I said I made the film so that you would come up to me and tell me that. Do you know what I mean? So that you felt
that's
like
awesome.
you weren't the only person in the world who has experienced that difficulty on their journey to motherhood. When I think that there are so many couples who do experience this kind of loss, and it isn't it's not spoken about, especially in the conversation around abortion. So, yeah, I think we have to take chances as artists. I think art, my belief is that art can change culture. I think we, as artists, we should be taking chances and we should be talking about things that make us uncomfortable. And we just need to tolerate being uncomfortable because that's life.
Art, and the point of art, right?
Exactly, and it's definitely been a journey. There was the how I felt about it when I was writing it, how I felt about it sending the script out to people, casting even, and then what is it like to put it out there into the world and have somebody watching your story, and it's just a yeah, I think there you just have to be open to being vulnerable. Mm,
That's amazing. So, Symbol Productions, as you mentioned, nonprofit, which is unique. There are other production companies in this space. I saw Lily James announced a new production company championing stories of female resilience. And I'm sure the same sort of companies I could name that are doing this.
yeah.
When you go to a festival, do you feel like we need all the stories of female empowerment that we can get on film because there's still not enough female directors? Or is it a competition in a sense where, like, you talk to production or distribution companies and you run into there's only a finite amount of people that are gonna produce these stories, so it's not a competition, maybe that's a too strong of a word, but it's like the space is crowded. How do you feel about the female filmmakers space in the production company type of thing?
I don't think it's too crowded. I think there are a lo and I think that is something that we're really interested in is not only supporting female filmmakers, but it's about the the films themselves. The content of the films have to be female driven. I think that no, I think that there's always opportunity to tell more stories. I was even looking through, I think it was maybe Venice. I think I was looking at the films that were premiering there, and I'm like, "Ma 2 films about women." I think
That's wild.
Anne Lee and were there with the female lead, a primary female lead. So,
That's wild.
yeah, so I think there's definitely listen, we're 50% of the population.
That's what I was about to say, like, why
Right.
is there only 2?
Yeah, right, it may have been me, but, from the
But
ones
yeah,
always listed in IndieWire or top 10 films to see in Venice, and it was like one of them had it was about a woman. And, yeah, I think that there are so many stories that are still left untold,
yeah,
and, it's and again, it's not about I think it's not about only supporting women and kind of I don't think anyone at Symbol we have this conversation a lot. It's like, we need to bring men into the conversation, that in
yeah,
order for us
completely.
to make a difference it was very important to me who Avi was in the film, like, having Adam and having his strong voice as a supporter of women, it was very important to me. I'm doing, a photo series in conjunction with the film where I'm photographing men and women who have had an experience with abortion, and we are working together to create an environment that helps reflect their emotional journey, right? But it's
Yeah,
men and women, because even though they're very different experiences, the male experience of abortion is just as valid and is I think in order again to make a shift in culture, that story also needs to be told. And so I think for us, we are putting our time and energy into finding diverse female stories, but the the power of the relationship between men and women is something that we're also looking for in the films. Does that make sense? Like,
it
it's
does, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and I think it's just a matter of bringing community together and bringing people together to just collaborate and create beautiful art that hopefully can make a difference and change someone's life because I think it does. Sometimes I think maybe my head is in the clouds, but what
No. Right?
oh my god, I sound so cheesy, but I think at the end of the day, you have to have that kind of perspective if we're gonna keep driving forward. Yeah.
That's amazing. Lauren, if you're a fan of your filmmaking like I am after seeing Before You, what is next for you? I think I read Echoes is a project. Is that something that's, like, the next thing that people can look forward to seeing from you?
Yeah, I think that's probably that's the script that's coming up the furthest along. and I'm working on some others. But yeah, for me, we're in development on that feature. We just brought on an amazing co-writer who Yuli Gorbeze, who lives in Berlin because most of the film takes place in Berlin. So again, it was very important to me to have a kind of honest perspective. I've only spent weeks here and there in Berlin, and so if
Right.
it takes place in the art world, I understand the art world. She understands she's from Brazil, so she understands being an outsider in Berlin. So I think I'm really excited about this collaboration and yeah, moving forward and then getting the script out there.
Awesome. So, curveball question, Lauren. We conclude the podcast with hyping other people's projects because it's so hard to get projects made, films made. So, through your travels, is there a film or filmmaker that you wish more people knew about?
Oh gosh, this is hard.
I know.
There are a lot. Am I allowed to choose one of the filmmakers that we're
You
working with?
100%, 100%. That sounds like the smart thing to do, actually.
Happening. I mean, um, right now I
Because
don't.
then they'd be like, "Wait, what? She doesn't wanna
Yeah,
choose my film?"
now
So,
I feel
we'll
bad. I
say
choose one of the four. I'm like, oh
so
no.
we'll say, like, all the films that we can say, like, all the films that you have supported. We put that out there, so, for
Yes.
sure, all the films you've supported.
Yes. So Satisfaction is having its European. Alex is amazing, and that's having its European premiere in Warsaw, and so
That's awesome.
that's wonderful. And then Blue Heron, Sophie is an incredible filmmaker. She's incredible in that, like, she just even with her short docs, because this is her first narrative film and it's her first
It's
feature,
amazing.
and yeah, this film it's really beautiful. The reviews have been out of this world, but just more than even the reviews, it's like the conversations that I've been having with people in the room after the screening is like, this is a very special film. And then Sarah Friedland, who wrote and directed Familiar Touch, which is kind of nation or worldwide in theaters. They just premiered in Brazil, and it's just an incredible film. Also anyone can rent that film, and it's a really beautiful take on a woman who's experiencing Alzheimer's and kind of a care facility that she goes into, and but it's a very artistic in the best way. She comes
Right.
from dance and from theater, and so I think the way in which she tells the story and Kathleen's performance in the film is spectacular. But yes, so yes, just go on Simbel.com, look at all of our films. And I feel very lucky to have worked with the directors that we are working with in such a short period of time. And I look forward to discovering new voices and helping to support them on the ground, finding ways to really expand the reach of their film beyond the festival circuit and finding ways to really, again, create community and conversation. And yeah, it's been so wonderful to get to work with artists. Yeah.
I love that answer, Lauren. So, if somebody wants to watch before you, what's the best way for them to find screenings near them?
So we are actually doing an Oscar campaign right now. We are hoping to do a screening in LA and New York, but we actually are gonna be we're in Catalina this weekend. So we'll be at the Catalina Film Festival this weekend. We'll be at the Soho International Film Festival on October 8th at 5:20 at the Regal Cinemas in Union Square. And then we'll be in Dallas. I think that festival's I think it's like the 2nd weekend in October. That's what we have set up so far. But yeah, and then hopefully we'll get some traction and create a platform for people to see the film as we push for the Oscars.
A and
Yeah.
I'm sure people can follow your Instagram account, which I'll link in the show notes, and you'll update there's updates on there about when future showings are.
Yeah, so we have my Instagram account, Symbols, and then a Book
Okay.
You account as well. So you can follow what we're all up to. Yes, and on all fronts. But yes, absolutely. Yeah, hopefully it'll be out there for a little while, just to so that we can get more eyes on it, and then we'll take it to universities and do screenings there after the campaign. Yeah.
Filmmaker Lauren Melinda, this has been so fantastic. Thank you so much for your art. Thanks for your bravery, because I hope somebody listening or watching your films will think, "Oh, you can do this. You can go out and make art like this and show what you believe and stand for it and put that out there." And hopefully it'll encourage more filmmakers to be brave, which I think will ultimately result in not only better films, but more dialogue among people. So many good things for our country. So thank
Thank
you for your bravery and thanks for being here on the podcast.
thanks, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.